if you're watching this video, chances are you're a Hindu who grew up outside of India, maybe in North America, in the West Indies, in Europe, in New Zealand, in Australia, right? In a culture that is maybe Western and you're not immersed fully in Hinduism, right? Or maybe you grew up in like Nepal, in Mauritius, or in like Fiji, where there is actually a significant Hindu culture, but maybe you grew up following like traditions, bhakti traditions, going to the mandir, saying prayers and doing pujas, but not fully understanding everything, right? They are like having gaps of knowledge in between, pieces of understanding, right? So this series, I wanted to say that you're not alone, right? There's many of us who grew up having this experience, and this series is a bit of an attempt to try to fill in the gaps so we all can have like a more rounded, at least build a good foundation of understanding of what Hinduism is, right? And to do that, we need to start at the start, right? So where do we start? We start with Hinduism is not the real name. The real name is called Sanatan Dharma, right? So that is the real name of Hinduism. Sanatan meaning eternal, timeless, never ending, right? Never ending. And Dharma means law, means like a duty, right? So Sanatan Dharma means the eternal law, right? There's an eternal law that always existed and will always exist. And part of that is that every soul will need to find its way back to God, right? So just like if you imagine, right, there's a droplet in the sky. It falls as rain, right? From rain, it goes into the river, and then maybe it falls into a little canal, right? The canal gets into a river, and then the river is going towards the ocean, but it gets trapped in a bottle of water, and then it gets consumed. It goes into human pipes, and then eventually it finds its way back to the ocean, and then it goes back to the sky through evaporation, right? In the same way, the human soul is on that kind of journey, right? It's on that kind of journey through lifetimes. Learning what? Learning Dharma. Dharma means righteousness, right? Righteousness and the right way of living, truthful way of living. So through going through lifetimes, we are learning and gathering growth, spiritual growth, and getting closer and closer to God. And through that, we're accumulating or destroying what we call karma, right? So through this dance, we're either getting closer to God and then further away, taking a detour in this lifetime and then going back, right? So these are the principles, but the principle of the purpose of human life is to make our way back to God through Dharma, to understanding, doing the right things, speaking the right things, doing the right actions that burn our karma. And through that, we go back to God, right? So Sanatan Dharma is that eternal law that pervades the universe, right? That is what Hinduism means. But Hinduism, the term Hinduism came from the Persians, right? There was a river called Sindhu, the Indus River, and because the people living close to it, the Persians started calling them Hindus, right? So that's why the term Hinduism comes from. Now, some people get triggered by it. You know, some people don't like to be called Hindus. They're like, oh, it's Sanatan Dharma, it's not Hinduism. You're not a Hindu, you're a Sanatani, right? So some people get triggered by that. Listen, my point of view is Yogananda, Sivananda, Vivekananda, Gandhi, all use the term Hindu and Hinduism, right? If it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. But listen, that's up to you. But the very first fundamental point of Hinduism is to understand Sanatan Dharma. What is Sanatan Dharma? It is the eternal law governing the universe that will always be there and has always been, right? And for us as human beings, that law directs us towards our aim in our soul's aim is to find its way back to God. Okay, we'll go deeper into dharma, into karma, into the various types of yogas and the purpose of life, but this is the first fundamental principle of Hinduism. Listen, I will keep using the word Hinduism and Hindu. I love the term. I love calling myself that. And you know, just like some other people, like if you give people power over you just by a sound they make, right? Hindu is just a sound that you make with your mouth. Just like some people will say, oh, Krishna is the only one, right? Or Jesus is the only one. Shiva is the only one, right? But these are just sounds made by your mouth, by, you know what I mean? I can do woof, I can do meow. These are just sounds, right? But they are sounds that just lead to the eternal, right? I'm going on a tangent, but I want you to understand this, right? So there's a mountain. There's a mountain and you're on the north end of the mountain, right? On the north end of the mountain, there's a trail that says, on a sign that says, this trail, take this trail and you will go to the top, right? And this trail is called Shiva. But you go to the south end of the mountain, there's another trail. And on that trail, there's also a sign saying, this sign, follow this trail, it will take you to the top. But this trail is called Buddha, okay? But now you go to the east end of the mountain and there's a trail there too, and there's a sign that says, oh, this path will take you to the top too. But this one is called the Jesus path, right? And on the west side, you have one that's Krishna. But the understanding is that depending on your perspective, from your karma, from your configuration of the three gunas that we'll go over, your perspective will be different. And that's why there are all these paths. But ultimately, the path leads to the top. And the top is this ultimate, right? Another analogy is you have this beam of light, right? That goes into a prism and then it breaks into the rainbows, the different colors of the rainbows, right? But ultimately, all these colors emanated from the same source, from the same white light, right? In the Rig Veda, they say, truth is one, and but the sages call it by many names, okay? So, and at least that I'm explaining to you my perspective of Hinduism. And Hinduism says, the beautiful thing about Hinduism is that it is a monotheistic, let's say, religion, but it is pluralistic as well. Monotheistic meaning that it recognizes only one God. There's only one source, one eternal source, right? What we call Brahman, right? But it is pluralistic in the way that it says, okay, the Buddha path, the Jesus path, the Krishna path, the Shiva path, the yogic path, the Nyaya path, they all will take you there, right? And this is the beauty of Hinduism, and that it welcomes all aspects of divinity, because it understands that ultimately any and all those aspects will lead you back to that one place, to Brahman. I hope this video made you a little more aware as a Hindu. We'll continue this series if you like it. Let me know in the comments. Namaste. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.